The lights in the massive meeting hall were bright and cold. Commander Jake Martinez walked slowly across the smooth metal floor, his black uniform making soft sounds with each step. Around him, dozens of alien beings sat in chairs that looked nothing like human furniture. Some chairs floated in the air. Others were made of crystal that glowed with soft colors. A few looked like they were made from living plants. Jake had been to many meetings before, but this one felt different. The air smelled strange, like metal and flowers mixed together. Strange sounds came from the alien translators that hung around their necks. Some aliens made clicking noises when they talked. Others sounded like singing birds or rumbling thunder. He took his seat at the small table marked with Earth's symbol. A table was much smaller than the others. The Zephyrian table was huge and made of black stone. The luminar table glowed with bright white light. Even the insect people from the hive worlds had a table 3 times bigger than his Admiral Klexter stood up first. He was tall, maybe 8 feet, with blue skin that looked like it was made of metal. His forearms moved as he talked, and his voice was deep like distant thunder. "The Vorthic Empire grows stronger each day," Klexter said. His words came through Jake's translator as perfect English, but Jake could hear the alien sounds underneath. "They have taken 12 worlds in the past year. Their ships are larger than anything we have seen before. We must work together, or we will all fall." The other aliens nodded, or made their own sounds of agreement. Hive Queen Zakra clicked her mandibles together rapidly. She looked like a giant ant that walked on 2 legs, with 4 arms and black eyes that never blinked. When she spoke, her voice sounded like many people talking at once. "The Hive offers 1,000 ships," she said. "Each ship carries 500 warriors. We are ready to fight and die for the safety of all." More aliens stood to make their offers. The luminar delegate glowed brighter as she spoke about their 800 crystal ships. The Corvin representative, who looked like a walking tree with too many branches, promised 600 vessels. Each species tried to show they were stronger and more ready than the others. Jake waited until all the others had spoken. The room grew quiet as he stood up. He was the shortest being in the room by far. His brown hair and normal human face looked plain next to all the exotic aliens around him. "Earth offers our full support," Jake said in a clear voice. "We will send our entire fleet to help fight the Vorthics." Admiral Klexter leaned forward with interest. "How many ships will Earth provide, Commander Martinez?" Jake took a breath. 47 vessels." The silence lasted for 3 seconds. Then Admiral Klexter began to laugh. It was a sound like rocks falling down a mountain. Other aliens joined in with their own versions of laughter. The luminar delegate's glow flickered like a broken light. Hive Queen Zakra's clicking became faster and higher. 47? Klexter said between laughs. "Did you say 47? "That is correct," Jake replied calmly. The laughter grew louder. Some aliens started talking to each other in their own languages, not bothering to use the translators. Jake could see them pointing at him and shaking their heads. "Commander," said the Altarian delegate, a being that looked like it was made of flowing water, "perhaps you did not understand the question. We are asking about warships, not cargo vessels or scouts." 47 warships, Jake said. This brought fresh waves of laughter. Admiral Klexter wiped something that might have been tears from his metallic face. "My friends," Klexter said, "to the other aliens, the humans want to help. How touching. Tell me, Commander, are these 47 ships very large? Perhaps each one carries thousands of fighters." "Our largest ship has a crew of 300, Jake answered. The Corvin delegate made a sound like wind through leaves. 300? Our smallest patrol boat has more crew than that. Hive Queen Zakra spoke up, her voice buzzing with amusement. Perhaps the humans should focus on evacuation duties instead. Leave the fighting to those who understand war. We understand war quite well, Jake said quietly. Do you? Admiral Klexter stood up to his full height, looking down at Jake. Humans have been in space for what, 200 years? We Zephyrians have fought wars among the stars for over 10,000 years. The Luminar have defended their world since before your species learned to make fire. Experience does not always equal wisdom, Jake replied. This brought more laughter from around the room. The Altarian delegate rippled with what might have been amusement. Commander Martinez, said the Luminar representative, her voice like crystal. Bells, your courage is admirable, but courage alone does not win wars. The Vorthix field ships that are miles long. They have weapons that can crack planets. What can 47 small ships do against such power? Jake looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some were still laughing. Others looked at him with what seemed like pity. A few just looked bored, as if he was wasting their time. Our ships may be small in number, Jake said, but I would not underestimate them. Admiral Klexter slapped one of his 4 hands on his table, making a sound like a bell. Underestimate? Commander, I do not think you understand what you are facing. The Vorthix will have thousands of ships. Thousands. Each one bigger than your entire fleet combined. Numbers are not everything, Jake said. In Space War, numbers are almost everything. Hive Queen Zakra clicked. Unless you have some secret weapon you have not told us about? Jake was quiet for a moment. Every human ship is a secret weapon. This brought the biggest laugh yet. Even the normally serious Corvin delegate made rustling sounds that might have been chuckling. Well then, Admiral Klexter said, wiping his eyes again, we will be sure to give your secret weapons a safe position far from the main battle. Perhaps you can guard our supply ships. That would be very helpful. The meeting continued for another hour, but Jake barely listened to the rest. The aliens made their battle plans, divided up the sectors, and assigned roles. The humans were given exactly what Klexter had suggested. Guard duty for supply ships, far from any real fighting as the meeting ended, and the aliens began to leave. Several of them stopped by Jake's table. Most just wanted to pat him on the shoulder and tell him how brave his species was for trying to help. Their words were kind, but Jake could see the amusement in their eyes. Do not worry, little human, Admiral Klexter said as he prepared to leave. This war will be over before your tiny fleet even reaches the battle zone. The real warriors will handle the Vorthix. Jake stood alone in the meeting hall after all the others had gone. The lights seemed dimmer now, and the strange smells were stronger. He looked up at the high ceiling and thought about all the times in human history when people had been underestimated. It never seemed to end well for those doing the underestimating. He activated his communicator and sent a simple message back to Earth. Proceed with deployment. Full authorization granted. The galaxy was about to learn something new about humans. Captain Lisa Bennett stood on the bridge of the TCS Liberty, looking out at the stars through the main viewing screen. Space around them was busy with ships from a dozen different worlds. The Zephyrian vessels looked like flying mountains made of dark metal. The Luminar ships glowed like small suns. The Hive ships moved in perfect formations, looking like swarms of deadly insects. And then there were the human ships. 47 vessels hung in space near the edge of the alien fleet. They looked small and plain next to the exotic alien designs. The Liberty was the largest human ship present, but it would fit inside the cargo bay of most alien cruisers. Her hull was smooth gray metal with simple lines. No glowing crystals, no organic curves, no floating sections. Just practical human engineering. Captain, said Lieutenant Commander Ryan Murphy from his position at the tactical station, we're getting more communications from the alien ships. Lisa turned away from the viewing screen. Ryan was young for his rank, maybe 30 years old, with short black hair and sharp green eyes. He had been with her crew for 3 years and knew how to read her moods. What kind of communications? Lisa asked. The usual, Ryan said with a slight smile. More jokes about our size. The Corvin battle cruiser just asked if we need an escort to find our way to the supply depot. Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez looked up from her console. She was a small woman with long brown hair tied back in a practical ponytail. Her hands were always busy, either working on controls or fixing something that needed attention. Let them. Laugh, Amy said. They haven't seen what these ships can really do. Communications Officer Dan Pierce turned in his chair. He was tall and thin, with blonde hair and a calm expression that never seemed to change, even in the worst situations. Captain, the Altarian Fleet Commander is asking if we need technical assistance. He says their engineers would be happy to help upgrade our primitive systems. Lisa felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her voice steady. Tell him we appreciate the offer, but we're quite satisfied with our equipment. Yes, ma'am, Dan replied, turning back to his console. Lisa walked over to the tactical display in the center of the bridge. The holographic image showed all the ships in the area. The alien vessels were marked in different colors: blue for Zephyrian, white for Luminar, green for Corvin, and so on. The human ships showed up as small red dots scattered around the edge of the formation. They think we're a joke, Ryan said quietly, moving to stand beside her. Let them think that, Lisa replied. It will make things easier later. Amy joined them at the display. Captain, all ships are reporting ready status. The weapon systems are charged, and the new targeting computers are online. What about the special equipment? Lisa asked. Loaded and ready, Amy said with satisfaction. Every ship has a full magazine of the new rounds. The railguns are calibrated perfectly. Lisa nodded. The aliens had no idea what human ships really carried. While other species had focused on energy weapons, lasers, plasma cannons, particle beams, humans had taken a different path. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways. Captain, Dan said from his station, Admiral Klexter is broadcasting to all ships. He's giving a speech about the coming battle. Put it on speakers, Lisa ordered. The bridge filled with the admirals. Deep voice, translated into English. Warriors of the galaxy, we face our greatest challenge. The Vorthic Empire brings weapons we have never seen. Their ships are larger than our greatest dreadnoughts. But we are united. Together, we cannot be defeated. Lisa could hear cheering from other ships over the communication channels. The aliens were getting excited, working themselves up for the fight ahead. Of course, Admiral Klexter continued, some of our allies are dot smaller than others. But every contribution matters, no matter how tiny. Even our human friends, with their 47 little ships, will do their part by staying safe and guarding our supplies. More laughter came through the speakers. Lisa could hear alien voices making jokes in languages the translator couldn't handle. Turn it off, Lisa said. The bridge became quiet again. Lisa looked at her crew. Ryan's face was red with anger. Amy was shaking her head. Dan looked like he wanted to say something, but was holding back. Captain, Ryan said, permission. To speak freely? Always, Lisa replied. I'm getting tired of being treated like children. We trained for this mission for 2 years. We know what we're doing. They'll learn, Lisa said calmly. When? Amy asked. After they get themselves killed because they think they're invincible? Lisa turned back to the viewing screen. In the distance, she could see more ships arriving. The alien fleet was growing larger by the hour. Soon they would move toward the Helios system, where intelligence reports said the Vorthics were gathering. Amy, show me the weapon status again, Lisa said. Amy pressed a few buttons on her console. New information appeared on the tactical display. Each human ship showed green lights across all systems. Every ship has 12 railgun batteries, Amy said. Each battery can fire solid projectiles at 15% of light speed. We have armor-piercing rounds, explosive rounds, and the new phase-change rounds that Professor Williams designed. Ammunition count? Lisa asked. Each ship carries 2,000 rounds per battery. That's 24,000 shots per ship. Ryan whistled softly. Over 1 million rounds total for the fleet. And the aliens don't know about any of this, Dan added. Lisa smiled for the first time that day. They think energy weapons are the future of space combat. Plasma cannons, particle beams, fusion torpedoes. Very advanced, very powerful. But they all work the same way, Amy said, understanding where Lisa was going. They're all forms of energy that can be deflected by shields. Exactly. Every alien species in the galaxy uses the same basic technology. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, but not solid objects moving at high speed, Ryan said with growing excitement. A chunk of metal traveling at 15% of light speed doesn't care about energy shields, Lisa said. It just keeps going until it hits something solid. Dan turned from his console again. Captain, we're getting a priority message from Earth Command. Put it through, Lisa ordered. Commander Martinez's voice filled the bridge, transmitted across. Hundreds of light years. All human vessels, this is command. You have full authorization to engage enemy forces as you see fit. Do not let anyone tell you what you can and cannot do. Show them what human engineering can accomplish. The message ended. Lisa looked around at her crew. They were all smiling now. You heard the commander, Lisa said. We have our orders. What about Admiral Klexther's instructions to guard the supply ships? Ryan asked. Lisa walked back to her captain's chair and sat down. Through the viewing screen, she could see alien ships moving into formation. They were getting ready to jump to hyperspace, heading for the battle that would decide the fate of multiple worlds. Admiral Klexther is not in command of human ships, Lisa said. I am. Amy laughed. The aliens are going to be very surprised. Yes, they are, Lisa agreed. Dan, send a message to all human ships. Tell them to prepare for combat operations. We're going to show the galaxy what 47 ships can do when they're built by humans. Message sent, Captain, Dan replied. Lisa leaned back in her chair and watched the alien fleet begin to move. Soon they would all jump to hyperspace together. The Vorthix were waiting at Helios, confident in their superior numbers and advanced technology. They had no idea what was coming for them. Neither did the aliens who had spent the trillions who had spent the Vol. They laughing at the tiny human fleet. But they were all about to learn something important about the species from the small blue planet. Humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years before they ever reached the stars. And they had gotten very, very good at it. The alarms on the TCS Liberty started screaming at exactly 0847 hours, ship time. Captain Lisa Bennett was in her ready room, drinking coffee and reading reports, when the sound made her jump to her feet. She ran onto the bridge just as Lieutenant Commander Ryan Murphy was pulling up the sensor displays. Report, Lisa said, sliding into her captain's chair. Long-range sensors are picking up massive hyperspace signatures, Ryan said, his fingers dancing across his controls. Distance is roughly 50,000 kilometers and closing fast. On the main viewing screen, space looked empty, except for the Allied fleet. The Zephyrian dreadnoughts hung in formation like dark mountains. The luminar ships glowed in perfect lines. The hive vessels moved in their usual swarm patterns. Everything looked normal. Then space began to tear apart. The first Vorthic's ship came out of hyperspace like a knife cutting through fabric. It was huge, bigger than anything Lisa had ever seen. The hull was black as night and covered with spikes that looked like weapons. Red lights glowed along its sides like angry eyes. "Holy hell," Amy Rodriguez whispered from her engineering station. More. Ships followed, dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. They kept coming until space was filled with Vorthic vessels. Each one was larger than the biggest alien ship in the Coalition fleet. Some of the Vorthic dreadnoughts were so big they had their own gravity fields. "Final count," Ryan said, his voice tight. 3,217 enemy vessels. Dan Pierce looked up from his communication station. "I'm getting emergency broadcasts from all Allied ships. Admiral Klexter is ordering battle stations." Lisa watched the tactical display as it updated with new information. The Vorthic fleet was arranged in perfect formations. Their ships moved with mechanical precision, like parts of a giant machine. There was something terrifying about how organized they were. "Captain," Amy said, "I'm reading energy signatures I've never seen before. These ships are putting out more power than entire space stations." The Allied fleet began to move. Admiral Klexter's flagship, a massive Zephyrian dreadnought called the Iron Thunder, led the charge. Behind it came 800 Zephyrian ships, their dark hulls bristling with plasma cannons. The luminar crystal ships formed their own attack, wing glowing brighter as they charged their energy weapons. The hive ships spread out in attack formations, ready to swarm the enemy. "All ships, this is Admiral Klexter," the alien commander's voice boomed over the communication channels. "Attack formation Beta 7. Engage the enemy at maximum range with all weapons." Lisa watched as the alien fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy beams lanced out across space. Plasma bolts as bright as small suns streaked toward the Vorthic ships. Particle beams that could cut through asteroids hit the enemy hulls. For a moment, it looked like the attack was working. The space between the two fleets was filled with explosions and flashing lights. Lisa found herself hoping that maybe the aliens were right. Maybe their superior numbers would be enough. Then the light faded, and the Vorthic ships were still there. "Impossible," Ryan breathed. The enemy vessels hung in space, completely undamaged. Their hulls didn't show even a scorch mark from the massive energy attack. It was like the alien weapons had hit nothing at all. "Captain," Dan said, his voice shaking slightly, "Admiral Klexter is demanding damage reports from all ships." "What are the Vorthics doing?" Lisa asked. Ryan checked his sensors. "They're just sitting there, not moving, not shooting back. It's like they're waiting for something." The Allied fleet fired again. This time they concentrated all their firepower on a single Vorthic cruiser. Hundreds of energy weapons hit the same target at the same time. The explosion was so bright it hurt to look at, even through the filtered viewing screen. When the light cleared, the Vorthic ship was still there, still undamaged. "Their shields are deflecting everything," Amy said in amazement. "I've never seen anything like it." That was when the Vorthics decided to shoot back. The enemy weapons were nothing like the energy beams the Allies used. Instead of bright flashes, the Vorthic guns fired what looked like dark spheres. The spheres moved slowly compared to laser fire, but when they hit Allied ships, the results were devastating. The first sphere hit a luminar cruiser. The crystal ship exploded like a bomb, sending pieces flying in all directions. The second sphere took out an entire formation of hive fighters. The third punched through a Zephyrian dreadnought's shields like they weren't even there. "Dear God," Lisa whispered. The slaughter continued. Vorthic dark spheres moved through space like death itself, destroying everything they touched. Allied ships that had seemed invincible just minutes before were being torn apart. The careful formations broke down as ships tried to escape the enemy fire. Admiral Klexter is ordering a retreat, Dan reported. Already? Amy asked in disbelief. On the tactical display, Lisa could see Allied ships breaking formation and running. The proud Zephyrian fleet was scattering like leaves in a storm. The Luminar ships were dimming their lights and trying to hide. Even the brave Hive warriors were pulling back. "Captain," Ryan said urgently, "the Vorthics are moving to pursue. They're going after the civilian evacuation ships." Lisa looked at the display. Behind the main battle area, hundreds of civilian ships were trying to escape the Helios system. They carried millions of refugees from the outer colonies. The ships moved slowly, loaded down with families and children who had nowhere else to go. The Vorthic fleet was changing direction, heading straight for the defenseless civilians. "Admiral Klexter is not moving to intercept," Dan said. "All Allied ships are still retreating." Lisa stared at the tactical display. The math was simple and terrible. The Vorthics would reach the civilian ships in less than an hour. The Allied fleet was running in the opposite direction. There was no one left to stop the slaughter, except for 47 small human ships that everyone had been laughing at. "Just a few hours ago, Captain," Ryan said quietly, "we could reach the evacuation ships before the Vorthics do. Our orders are to guard the supply depot," Amy pointed out. Lisa looked around the bridge at her crew. Ryan was watching her with intense green eyes. Amy had stopped working on her console and was waiting for orders. Don had turned his chair to face her, his calm expression unchanged, but his hands gripping the armrests. "Don, open a channel to all human ships," Lisa said. "Channel open, Captain." Lisa stood up from her chair. "All human vessels, this is Captain Bennett. You can see what's happening out there. The Odd fleet is retreating. The enemy is moving toward civilian targets. We have a choice to make." She paused, looking out at the stars where her fellow humans waited for orders. "We can follow our assigned mission and guard empty supply ships while millions of innocent people die. Or we can do what humans have always done when faced with impossible odds. We can stand up and fight." The communication channel crackled with responses. Other human captains were asking for orders, ready to follow her lead. "All ships, this is Captain Bennett. We are moving to intercept the enemy fleet. Our mission is to protect the civilian evacuation. Any ship that wants to withdraw is free to do so. No one will think less of you." Lisa waited. No human ship moved away from the formation. "Very well," Lisa said. "All ships follow the Liberty. Let's show these Vorthics what happens when they threaten innocent people." The 47 human ships turned toward the massive enemy fleet. They looked like minnows swimming toward a school of sharks. Behind them, the Allied fleet continued to retreat. Ahead of them, 3,000 Vorthic warships waited. "Captain," Amy said as they accelerated toward the enemy, "the aliens think we're crazy." "Maybe we are," Lisa replied. "But crazy has worked for humans before. What's the plan?" Ryan asked. Lisa smiled grimly. "We're going to find out if our secret weapons are as good as we think they are." The Liberty and her 46 sister ships raced across empty space toward an enemy that had just proven they were invincible. But humans had a long history of fighting. Impossible battles. And sometimes, just sometimes, they won. The 47 human ships moved through space like a pack of wolves approaching a herd of elephants. Captain Lisa Bennett stood on the bridge of the TCS Liberty, watching the massive Vorthic fleet grow larger on her viewing screen. Each enemy ship was at least 10 times bigger than her vessel, and there were thousands of them. "Range to target?" Lisa asked. 50,000 kilometers in closing. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Murphy replied from his tactical station. "The Vorthics have noticed us. They're turning some of their ships in our direction." "Good," Lisa said. "I want their attention. Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez looked up from her console. Captain, all human ships are reporting weapons ready. Railgun. Batteries are charged and loaded with armor-piercing rounds. What about our special ammunition? Lisa asked. Loaded and ready in secondary magazines, Amy confirmed. Every ship has the new tungsten core penetrators that Dr. Parker designed. Dan Pierce turned from his communication station. Captain, I'm getting calls from the retreating Allied ships. Admiral Klexter is demanding to know what we're doing. Tell him we're following our conscience, Lisa replied. Ma'am, he's ordering us to return to formation immediately. Lisa looked at the tactical display. The Allied fleet was still running. Away, leaving a trail of debris from their destroyed ships. Behind them, Vorthic vessels continued their slow pursuit toward the civilian evacuation ships. Don, open a channel to Admiral Klexter, Lisa said. The alien commander's angry voice filled the bridge. Captain Bennett, you will return to your assigned position immediately. This is madness. Admiral, Lisa said calmly, those are civilian. Ships, families with children. We can't just let them die. Your tiny ships cannot stop the Vortex. You will only get yourselves killed. Maybe, Lisa agreed. But we're going to try anyway. She nodded to Dan, who cut the communication. The bridge became quiet except for the hum of the ship's engines and a soft beeping of the sensor arrays. 30,000 kilometers to target, Ryan reported. The Vortex are launching those dark sphere weapons at us. Lisa could see them on the viewing screen. Black spheres of death moving toward the human fleet. They looked slow, but she knew. They had destroyed dozens of Allied ships just minutes ago. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Lisa ordered. Let's see how maneuverable these big Vorthic ships really are. The human vessels scattered like a school of fish. The Liberty rolled to starboard while other ships dove and climbed in different directions. The dark spheres passed harmlessly, through empty space where the human formation had been just seconds before. They can't track fast-moving targets very well, Ryan observed. Those weapons are designed for big, slow ships. Perfect, Lisa said. Amy, are we in range yet? Amy checked her instruments. 25,000 kilometers. We're at maximum effective range for the railguns. All ships, Lisa said into her. Communicator, this is Liberty. Commence firing. A human fleet opened fire all at once. 47 ships, each carrying 12 railgun batteries, sent a storm of metal projectiles screaming through space. The railguns used magnetic fields to accelerate chunks of tungsten to incredible speeds. Each projectile was only the size of a coffee cup, but it was moving at 15% the speed of light. The first volley hit 3 Vorthic ships simultaneously. The results were nothing like what had happened when the aliens fired their energy. Weapons. The tungsten projectiles punched through the Vorthic hulls like bullets through paper. Explosions bloomed inside the enemy ships as the metal chunks ripped through critical systems. 2 Vorthic cruisers exploded completely. The third began spinning out of control, atmosphere streaming from dozens of holes in its hull. Direct hits. Ryan shouted. Their shields aren't stopping us. Lisa smiled grimly. Energy shields don't work against solid objects. Keep firing. The human ships spread out further, making themselves harder to target while maintaining a constant barrage of railgun fire. Each ship could fire all 12 batteries every few seconds, sending waves of deadly projectiles into the Vorthic formation. The enemy fleet tried to respond, but their huge ships couldn't turn fast enough to track the quick human vessels. There, dark sphere weapons kept missing as the human ships danced around them like fighters against giants. Captain, Amy called out, I'm getting damage reports from across the Vorthic fleet. We're punching holes in ships that the entire Allied fleet couldn't scratch. On the tactical display, Lisa could see the battle developing. Red dots marking damaged or destroyed Vorthic ships were appearing everywhere. The enemy formation was starting to break apart as captains tried to avoid the deadly human fire. "They're trying to surround us," Ryan warned. "Some of their ships are moving to cut off our escape route." "We're not escaping," Lisa said. "Dan, target their flagship, a big one in the center of their formation." Dan's fingers flew over his. "Controls, flagship identified. It's massive, Captain. At least 50 times our size." "Size doesn't matter if you can't hit what you're shooting at," Lisa replied. "All ships, concentrate fire on the Vorthic flagship. Let's cut the head off the snake." 23 human ships turned their railguns toward the enormous Vorthic command vessel. Hundreds of tungsten projectiles streaked across space in perfect formation. The flagship tried to turn away, but it was too big and too slow. The railgun rounds hit the massive ship like a metal rainstorm. They punched through the hull in dozens of places, tearing apart the internal structure. Secondary explosions started fires that spread through the ship's corridors. "The flagship is heavily damaged," Ryan reported. "I'm reading massive power failures across their ship." "Keep firing," Lisa ordered. More human ships joined the attack on the flagship. The great Vorthic vessel shuddered under the constant impacts. Parts of its hull began to break away and drift into space. "Captain," Dan said urgently, "the flagship is sending out some kind of signal. All the other Vorthic ships are responding." Lisa looked at the tactical display. The enemy fleet was changing formation, pulling back from the human ships. For the first time since the battle began, the Vorthics looked uncertain. "They're retreating," Amy said in amazement. "No," Lisa corrected, watching the enemy movements carefully. "They're regrouping. We hurt them, but we haven't beaten them yet." The Vorthic fleet formed a new battle line, keeping their distance from the human ships. They had learned to respect the deadly railgun fire, but they still had overwhelming numbers. "Captain," Ryan said, "I count 43 enemy ships destroyed or disabled. But that still leaves over 3,000 functional vessels." Lisa nodded. The human attack had been successful, but the odds were still impossible. Her 47 ships couldn't fight 3,000 enemies forever, no matter how effective their weapons were. "Ma'am," Dan said, "I'm getting a communication from the Vorthic flagship." "Put it through," Lisa ordered. A harsh mechanical voice filled the bridge. The translation software struggled with the alien language, making the words sound choppy and strange. "Human vessels, you fight with honor. Your weapons are unexpected. We offer terms. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Lisa looked around at her crew. Ryan was watching her with determined eyes. Amy had her hands on the weapon controls, ready to keep fighting. Dan waited calmly for her response. "Tell them," Lisa said, clearly, "that humans don't surrender to bullies." Dan relayed the message. The Vorthic response was immediate. Every enemy ship began moving forward at once, abandoning their cautious approach. They were coming for a final assault, ready to overwhelm the small human fleet through sheer numbers. "All ships," Lisa said into her communicator. "They're coming at us with everything they have. This is what we trained for. Show them what humans can do when we're backed into a corner." The 47 human ships formed a tight defensive formation as 3,000 Vorthic vessels charged toward them. The final battle was about to begin, but as Lisa watched her crew prepare for the fight of their lives, she noticed something on the tactical display that made her smile. In the distance, moving slowly but steadily toward the battle, dozens of new contacts were appearing. The Allied fleet had stopped retreating. Admiral Klexter and his ships were coming back to join the fight. The humans had bought them the time. They needed to regroup, and now the real battle could begin. The final battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, Space around the Helios system was filled with the wreckage of Vorthic ships. Captain Lisa Bennett stood on the bridge of the TCS Liberty, looking at the tactical display that showed the results. Of the fight, 3,000 Vorthic vessels had entered the system. Now only scattered pieces of metal drifted where their mighty fleet had been. The few enemy ships that survived the battle were fleeing toward the edge of the system, their hulls cracked in bleeding atmosphere. "Final damage report," Lisa said. To Lieutenant Commander Ryan Murphy. Ryan checked his console. "Of the 47 human ships, we lost none. 3 vessels have minor hull damage. The TCS Boston took a direct hit, but her crew managed to keep fighting. Total human casualties: 12 wounded, 0 dead." Lisa nodded, though she felt tired in her bones. The last 6 hours had been the most intense fighting of her life. When Admiral Klexther's fleet had returned to join the battle, everything had changed. The aliens had seen what human weapons could do to Vorthic ships, and they had learned quickly. "What about the Allied fleet?" Lisa asked. "Heavy losses," Ryan replied sadly. The Zephyrians lost over half their ships in the first attack. The Luminar Crystal fleet was almost completely destroyed. The Hive ships took terrible casualties. Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez looked up from her station. "But they kept fighting. Once they saw us breaking through the Vorthic shields." The Corvin tree ships were especially brave. Communications Officer Dan Pierce turned in his chair. "Captain, I'm getting calls from dozens of Allied ships. They all want to talk to you." Lisa sighed. "Put Admiral Klexther through first." The Zephyrian commander's voice filled the bridge, but it sounded very different from before. Gone was the arrogant tone that had mocked human efforts. Now Klexther spoke with respect and something that might have been amazement. "Captain Bennett," the alien admiral said, "I owe you an apology. I owe all humans an apology. Without your intervention, we would have lost everything." "We all fought together in the end," Lisa replied diplomatically. "No," Klexther said firmly. "Your ships carried the battle. When our weapons failed, yours succeeded. When we retreated, you advanced. You saved not just the civilians, but all of us." Lisa looked out at the viewing screen where pieces of Vorthic ships continued to drift past. "We did what needed to be done. May I ask," Klexther continued, "how your weapons work? Our energy shields stopped the mightiest plasma cannons, but your projectiles passed through them like they were not there." Amy smiled and nodded to Lisa. This was the moment they had been waiting for. "Admiral," Lisa said, "while your people developed more powerful energy weapons, we took a different path. We went back to basics." "Basics?" "Throwing rocks," Ryan said with a grin. "Very fast rocks," Lisa laughed. "Our railguns accelerate solid projectiles using magnetic fields. Chunks of tungsten metal moving at 15% of light speed. Your shields are designed to deflect energy, not solid matter." There was silence on the communication channel for a long moment. "Brilliant," Klexther finally said. "Simple and brilliant. We made our weapons more complex while you made yours more effective." Dan activated another channel. "Captain Hive Queen, Zakra wants to speak with you." The insect leader's voice buzzed with excitement. "Captain Bennett, the Hive wishes to learn from human tactics. Will you teach us your methods of warfare?" More voices joined the conversation. The Luminar wanted to exchange technology. The Corvin offered trade agreements. The Altarians asked for military advisors. Every alien species that had laughed at the tiny human fleet now wanted to be allies. "One at a time, please," Lisa said, feeling overwhelmed. Amy stood up from her station and walked over to the captain's chair. "Ma'am, we're getting reports from the civilian evacuation ships. Over 2 million refugees made it to safety because we stopped the Vorthic advance." Lisa felt a warm feeling in her chest. That was what really mattered. Not the respect of alien admirals or the offers of trade deals, but the families that were. Still alive because 47 human ships had refused to run away. "Captain," Dan said, "Earth Command is requesting a full report on the battle." "Tell them we'll have a complete analysis within 24 hours, Lisa replied. "But the important part is simple. Humanity proved itself today." Ryan pulled up. A new display showing the positions of all surviving ships. The human vessels were scattered across the battlefield, but they were all accounted for. The alien ships were regrouping, their formations much smaller than before, but their remaining crews filled with new respect for their human allies. "What happens now?" Amy asked. "Now we go home," Lisa said. "But I don't think things will be the same." She was right. Over the following weeks, everything changed for humanity. The Galactic Defense Council offered Earth a permanent seat with full voting rights. Trade agreements poured in from dozens of worlds. The Zephyrians wanted to buy human weapons. The Luminar offered to share their crystal technology. The Hive requested human military instructors. But the most important change was simpler than all of that. When humans spoke in galactic councils, other species listened. When human ships appeared in a system, potential enemies thought twice about making trouble. The tiny fleet that had been laughed at became the foundation of respect for the entire human race. Captain Lisa Bennett returned to Earth as a hero, but she never forgot the lesson of the battle. Humanity's strength had never been in having the biggest ships or the most advanced technology. Their strength came from refusing to give up, from finding new solutions to old problems, and from standing up for what was right, even when the odds seemed impossible. Admiral Klexter visited Earth 6 months later for the signing of the human Zephyrian Alliance. At the ceremony, he was asked about his first impression of the human fleet. "I thought they were a joke," the alien admiral admitted. 47 tiny ships against the might of the galaxy. I was wrong about many things that day. "What? Changed your mind?" the reporter asked. Klexter looked up at the sky, where human and alien ships now patrolled together in mixed formations. "They taught me that size is not everything," he said. "Sometimes the smallest force can have the biggest impact." Humans do not fight with the largest fleets or the most powerful weapons. They fight with something much more dangerous. What's that? They fight with heart. And that, I have learned, can overcome any disadvantage. The ceremony concluded with a flyover by the TCS Liberty and her sister ships. The same 47 vessels that had once been dismissed as too small to matter now led a parade of ships from across the galaxy. They looked exactly the same as they had during the battle, but everything else had changed. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not by becoming like the other species, but by remaining uniquely human. And the galaxy was better for it. In the end, the aliens had been right about one thing. The human fleet was tiny. But they had learned that in space, as in life, it was not the size of the ships that mattered. It was the size of the courage inside them.